Okay.
Okay, we're back from the executive session. I need a motion to adjourn the executive session at 6:52 p.m. Councilmember Adamczak, seconded by Councilmember Kaminsky. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. And we're ready to open up the regular meeting tonight. Could we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please continue to stand as we have a moment of silence for our veterans. Please be seated. Madam Clerk, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Christine Adamczak. Here. Councilmember Linda Hammer. Here. Councilmember Gerald Kaminsky. Here. Councilmember Brian Nowak.
Present.
Councilmember Brian Pilarski.
Present.
Councilmember Richard Rusiniak.
Here.
And Supervisor Diane Benchkowski.
Here. Okay, we have 7 present. We have our public comment period. It's comments only. It's an opportunity for residents to comment on items appearing on the agenda of the town board meeting tonight. The public comment period should last 15 minutes maximum. Each speaker may speak only once, and each speaker shall be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes speaking time. So, let's see, I think we have the sign-in sheet over there. Residents wishing to make comments, so we will close. Oh, okay, we need, okay. There's, yes, yeah, absolutely. Can you sign the sheet? So there's a sheet up there I had left. If this is only for the agenda items, we are having a public hearing, though. Are you talking about the project? Because that's an official public hearing. Okay, so this is a little different.
Okay.
The public comment is about anything else on the agenda.
Okay.
Public
Garbage
hearing,
trucks.
yeah.
Okay.
Good idea. And so then the public hearing is about the young development.
I can say my ink.
So did you sign that
I did not.
public hearing? Okay, I'll let you pass this around. How's that? You want to? Yeah.
Got it.
Just the 3 of you want to speak, or anybody else want to speak on the development? Then sign that sheet. And I still left the sheet up. If you want to comment on anything else after the meeting, there's also another comment period afterwards. So right now, we're going to close that public comment period, excuse me, and go on to, this is the public hearing regarding the young development on Transit Road. Madam Clerk?
So we had a call for a public hearing that was made at the June 8th Town Board meeting. It's resolution item 2021-251 to consider and discuss the rezoning of 6386 Transit Road. There are several portions of this parcel that seek a change in rezoning from residential and neighborhood service to apartment district and retail business district. All persons wishing to provide comments could appear in person or submit them to the town clerk's office to be read and saved as part of the permanent record. I did receive 1 letter of submission that was submitted to the town board, but will still be read into the record after the presentation.
Okay, Sean, thank you for being here tonight.
Yes, good evening, Supervisor and members of the Town Board. Sean Hopkins of the law firm of Hopkins, Sorgi, and McCarthy on behalf of the applicant, Young Development. Also with me is Patrick Sheedy, the project engineer from Carmina Wood Morris. Before we begin, I just want to note that what I've handed out to everyone is a copy of the PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to walk through, as well as a color copy, 11 by 17, of the most recently updated concept plan. Kim, thank you for turning the slide. So the site itself is located at 6386 Transit Road, approximately 33 acres in size. I think we all know it very well. We're proposing to redevelop that site as a mixed-use project. The existing zoning classifications are twofold. The front portion of the site is zoned NS, Neighborhood Services, and the rear portion of the site is zoned residential. What we're asking this board to approve is a request to amend those zoning classifications to C Retail Business District, which would pertain to the commercial components, which I'll show you in a second, as well as RA Apartment District. It is important to note for the record, I want to make this clear, we are not asking for the issuance of any decisions by the town board this evening. I spoke to Kim before the meeting began, and we'll be asking that the public hearing be left open until your next meeting, which is, I believe, on July 27th. I also want to note that there's one existing nearby business property owner, Dave Piotrowski, who called me today. He had a scheduling conflict. He did indicate that he would like to comment on the project, so I did make that clear, that I would present the fact that he will want to comment, and that would be requesting for the public hearing to remain open. So I want to make that clear for the record as well. Go to the next slide, Kim. So this is a survey illustrating the zoning classifications that we're seeking. That front portion along Transit Road, which is highlighted in blue, those are the parcels that we're requesting zoning to C commercial for potential future commercial development. And then the remainder of the site, which is approximately 28.8 acres, colored in red, we're requesting RA zoning, which would allow the multifamily components. Next. It is important to note, prior to this public hearing this evening, this project has been the subject of a very extensive review process. That began all the way back on August 31st of 2020 with our filing of a rezoning application and supporting documentation. Patrick Sheedy and his team at Carmina Wood Morris have also submitted a site plan application as well as a subdivision application. That did include fully engineered plans, a stormwater pollution prevention plan, along with an engineer's report. We presented this project to the planning board over the course of 5 separate meetings, and during its most recent meeting on June 10th, it did recommend approval of the rezoning by a unanimous vote subject to 4 conditions, which I'll review in a second. We presented this project to this board initially during a work session on September 22nd of last year, and as well as meetings on November 20th of last year, and then most recently on March 9th. The project was presented to the Environmental Advisory Committee. It issues recommendations to this board pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act over the course of 6 separate meetings, going all the way back to September 30th of last year. And during its most recent meeting on May 26th, by unanimous vote, it did recommend that the town board issue a negative declaration pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act. The Planning Department has made referrals to the Erie County Department of Environment Planning, and twice they have come back saying this project is of local concern. So there really has been a very lengthy and extensive review process to date. Want to go to the next slide, Kim? So this is just the plan that we presented to you, the town board, most recently on March 9th. I want to highlight a couple of things. Up in the yellow, highlighted, which is the northwest portion of the site, those are the 52 attached townhomes that will be for sale. You can see part of the original review process going all the way back to last fall. We had added a driveway connection to Cloverleaf at the request of the town. We've now changed it. I'll show you in a second. And then you can see that area with the green box highlighted permanent open space. That's a large DEC wetland that will be leaving its entirety. We are proposing some impacts to the 100-foot adjacent area, which I will mention in a second. And then finally, on the bottom left-hand side of that diagram, those are the commercial components. What we're currently showing there is approximately 25,000 square feet of commercial development. I do want to note those are not specific projects at this point in time, and we are not seeking site plan approval for those future projects at this point in time. However, pursuant to seeker, we wanted to make sure we disclose potential impacts so those could be considered. So that will come back to you if and when we have commercial users for those parcels. And of course, that's been a little bit more challenging than normal as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Next slide. So this is to show what we're proposing in terms of access. I do want to note this site actually does have nearly 800 feet of frontage on Transit Road. We do have an access easement to the McDonald's intersection to the south. We also, of course, have access to Cloverleaf at that intersection of Cloverleaf, Pleasant View, and Transit. Again, you can see the driveway connection to Cloverleaf. I do want to note that we have prepared a traffic impact study that's been updated several times, including most recently on June 4th. We are awaiting comments back from the New York State Department of Transportation. The town, in recognition of the fact that this is a large project, did retain the services of Clark Patterson Lee at our expense, an outside engineering firm. And this afternoon, we did receive a memorandum from Clark Patterson Lee based on its review of the updated traffic impact study, saying they agree with the content of that study, that we had addressed their previous concerns, and that they did agree that the traffic impact study should be updated after the build-out of the residential components. Next slide. So this is the current plan. Some of you were at the meeting we held at May 5th over at the engineering department. We reviewed some possible modifications. I believe we took those all into consideration, and those were as follows. We moved that driveway connection to Cloverleaf further to the east to make it closer to the intersection. There were two benefits of that. Number one, and most importantly, the driveway is no longer opposite any of the existing single-family homes on the north side of Cloverleaf. And secondly, it roughly aligns with the existing driveway for the commercial project to the north that has access to Cloverleaf. We talked about the compactor structure, which was previously on the southern portion of the site. You can see where we moved it up closer to the intersection of Cloverleaf and Transit. I do want to note our preference is to use an enclosed compactor rather than dozens of dumpsters throughout the site, and we'll show you a detail for that in a second. And then just as importantly, as you recall, originally that townhome building, which I've highlighted in purple, was quite close to that closest residential home on the end of Cloverleaf. So Pat and his team made some changes. They switched some buildings, made that a smaller building, thereby providing a setback of approximately 42.5 feet. And you also recall there was a mail kiosk that was literally almost in front of their house. We moved that around the bend, if you want to point to where, there. So that no longer will have any interference with that existing single-family homes. We've added a sidewalk along the entire Cloverleaf frontage on the south side. That will include running that sidewalk along the right-of-way for the existing used automotive center at the corner. And then the other comment I want to make, what we're currently proposing is 345 residential units. And I know Councilmember Nowak has had a couple of questions from time to time about the breakdown, so I just want to reiterate what that is. We're proposing 79 one-bedroom apartments, 185 two-bedroom apartments, and the comment I think that you had was 29 three-bedroom apartments. So we are including some three-bedroom apartments. Mr. Young typically does not include as many of those in this type of project, but based on the request, we are doing that. And then finally, again, those 52 townhomes, those will be two-bedroom units for sale. What we have found in other markets, and this is going to be sold to Morano, is those units are particularly attractive to individuals that already live in the town of Cheektowaga, have a large house, have maintenance responsibilities, want to stay in the town, but want that ability to travel in the winter, have everything taken care of in terms of maintenance, no longer worry about green space, snow plowing, et cetera, et cetera. So we think those will be in high demand. Next slide. That's just a color version of that updated plan that Pat and his team prepared. It does highlight, while this is a large project occurring on a 33-acre site, it is important to note there is substantial green space. Approximately 45% of the site will be green space and landscaping in its final as-built condition. That compares to only 15% that be required by the zoning code. Next slide. This is a survey showing those 5 parcels. You can see parcel 1, which is the main apartment site, parcel 2, which is 4.4 acres, the townhome parcel, and then parcels 3, 4, and 5, which consist of 2.27 acres and 2 parcels of 0.9 acres. Those will be for future commercial development. And again, we are not seeking site plan approval for the future commercial development at this point in time. Next slide. That's the phasing plan. One of the questions we had during the lengthy review process is how will this be phased? So you can see phase 1, which will be those multifamily units up on the northern portion of the Transit Road frontage, extending about 2/3 of the way down Cloverleaf, as well as those attached townhomes for sale. It is important to note that we recognize we will need a stormwater management system in connection with Phase 1. So you can see that large stormwater facility located on the northwest portion of the site. Then we'll proceed to Phase 2, which are the multifamily units more on the southern portion of the site. And we've labeled Phase 3 as commercial. However, if we're able to reach a deal with an attractive commercial tenant, that could move up in terms of the sequencing. Next. These are photographs of Mr. Young's existing Edgewater apartment project on Broadway in Cheektowaga. And I want to highlight, we have several 3-story, 26-unit buildings. That's a photograph on the right. And then you can see the photograph of the clubhouse on the left. What we have found more and more with these upscale projects is the clubhouse is an essential amenity. You need to have a gathering space. You need to have a nice outdoor area and really try and create that sense of community on site. So over time, those have gotten nicer and nicer, and this will probably be the nicest one that Mr. Young has in his portfolio. Next slide. We're just going to walk you through the elevations that were included. The site plan application. This is a 4-unit building. You can see it does include attached garages for each and every unit. Next. 5-unit building, which is a 2-story building, and again, you can see it has attached garages. Next. This is a 10-unit building. Mr. Young has also constructed this building type down the road at 4720 Transit Road. There's 4 of these 10-unit buildings on that site, if you want to see them. Next. Those are the 26-unit buildings that will be nearly identical to that existing Edgewater apartment project on Broadway in the town of Lancaster. You can see those units also include garages on the sides of the building. What we have found with respect to this particular building type that does include an elevator and direct access to the apartments, generally speaking, the most attractive segment of the market for these is seniors. They lend themselves very well. So while it's not a senior designated project, I would expect that a high percentage of the residents of those buildings will be seniors, empty nesters. Next slide. That's the elevation plan for the clubhouse. You can see a lot of glass, a residential style roof, compatible with the upscale architectural materials and aesthetics of the overall buildings. Next slide. That's an elevation of the maintenance building. We just wanted to make it clear we're not proposing an aluminum shed. The maintenance building that will house snow plows, lawn mowing equipment, etc., will mimic the same architecture of the remainder of the buildings. Next slide. And this is the building that will house the compactor that I already indicated where it was. It's important to note that is absolutely not going to be a compactor sitting out there in the parking lot. Believe it or not, just the structure for the compactor will cost in the neighborhood of $125,000 to $150,000. Does include the same upscale materials. And I think if you're driving by on Transit Road, you probably won't realize that's what it is. Next slide. That's simply the topographic survey. The only reason I'm showing this is the town of Cheektowaga pays particular attention to trees and the removal of trees. This particular site, given its history, does not have a lot of trees. We'll show you the landscaping plan in a second, and I believe we're replacing the existing trees at a ratio of approximately 5 or 6 to 1. Next slide. This is a landscape plan that we included with the site plan application. I talked about 47% green space. We're showing 238 trees and 1,764 shrubs and ornamental grasses. So there will be diversity of landscaping. If you drive by one of Mr. Young's existing multifamily projects in his portfolio in West New York, you will notice they are very well maintained. And as they age, the landscaping certainly becomes a more and more attractive amenity. Next slide. Do want to note the planning board, as I indicated, issued a positive recommendation. There were 4 conditions. These conditions are important, and I want to recognize what they were. Number 1, that we have to deal with any potential impact to the sanitary sewer pump station. Number 2, that we will update the traffic impact study once we've built out the residential components. Number 3, that with respect to that permanent open space, we'll record a declaration of restrictions to ensure it remains permanently undeveloped. And then 4, a recognition that any variances that are needed from the town's Zoning Board of Appeals will be obtained. Next slide. Not going to spend a lot of time here. I just want to note we did make an updated project submission on May 26th. We've made a proactive effort to respond to all comments we've received. That submission did respond to the comments of David Johnson from Clark Patterson Lee, a letter regarding drainage submitted from Penny Sapola, Bella Vista, and then finally, that most recent comment letter received from the Erie County Department of Environment and Planning. Next. Next. I do want to note to conclude that not only is this a rezoning, also obviously you're required to conduct a coordinated environmental review pursuant to seeker. This project is what's known as a type 1 action, given that it consists of more than 250 residential units and also involves a rezoning of more than 25 acres. As a result, the town has conducted a coordinated environmental review. That began all the way back in September of last year. All of the agencies have had twice opportunities to provide comments to the town. To date, none of them have expressed any concerns that this project will result in any potentially significant adverse environmental impacts, which is the key in terms of your environmental review. Next. We did submit a wetland delineation report. I talked about the fact that there's that 2.47 acre wetland, which you can see on the left-hand side diagram. When we began this process, we were proposing a minor impact of that wetland. We then scaled it back based on input from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. And then finally, based on some additional input, we're proposing no impact. So that wetland will be preserved in its entirety. Next. However, there will be a minor impact to the regulated adjacent area. That's approximately 2.31 acres, and that's shown here. That is actually not a regulated wetland. Based on our discussions with the DEC, as mitigation for that, we're proposing to install 122 trees that they've selected the type along the perimeter, along with what's known as wetland monuments to provide a physical barrier to where that wetland is. So the good news is the entire wetland on this site will remain undisturbed. Next slide. We did submit an archaeological report on December 22nd of last year. The New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, Historic Preservation confirmed to the town that this project will not have any impacts on protected archaeological, cultural, or historical resources. Next. We also did submit a lighting plan. I've mentioned the fact that Pat and his team have submitted fully engineered plans. We've responded to comments received from the Erie County Water Authority. And the final bullet point on this slide, I think, is important. Number one, we think this will enhance community character. And number two, obviously, it will have a tremendous long-term positive fiscal impact for the town. Today, the assessed value of that site is $775,000. At build-out of this project, that will obviously be many multiples of millions of dollars. And that will benefit not only the town, but also the school district, as well as Erie County. Next. Just want to confirm we did submit a geotechnical report. We've submitted a downstream sanitary sewer capacity analysis. We've submitted documentation from Scott Livingston, our environmental consultant, addressing the possibility of there being the northern long-eared bat on the site, which there isn't. And then the second to the last bullet point slide, so compared to the 238 trees we're proposing, today on that entire 33 acres, there are 44 living trees. So it really will be a substantial improvement in terms of green space and landscaping. Next. So the most important topic that remains is traffic. I think everyone in the room would agree on that. So I just want to take the opportunity to explain that very briefly. We did submit an updated traffic impact study on June 4th. That was based on an email that was issued by Ed Rakowski of the New York State Department of Transportation on April 20th. That updated submission included a letter responding to each of the 15 comments contained in the email from Ed Rakowski. They asked us to do the following. Number one, expand the study area to include 3 additional intersections, which we did. They asked us to take midday counts. That was a comment we received from the school district. We did that. They also asked us to look at what could we do in terms of mitigation. I'll talk about that in a second. What we are doing, actually, Kim, if you want to go to the next slide, I'll show you that. So that's what exists today. You can see Transit Road obviously extending north to south, Cloverleaf coming in from the west, and then Pleasant View, which of course is slightly skewed, coming in from the east. So this is what's there today. The next slide shows what we're proposing. So what we're proposing is to add a dedicated right through lane on Cloverleaf for vehicles heading east, connecting to Transit Road. That existing travel lane will be left turn only. It is important to note that that right-of-way has a width of 60 feet, so we can fit that additional travel lane. And then secondly, on the opposite side, which is the Pleasant View Drive or Lancaster side, currently there's a right turn lane and a left turn lane. What our traffic engineer, SRF Associates, is recommending that the left-hand turn lane be modified to a through left lane, which you can see here. And then the other lane be dedicated as right only. It is important to note that's based on existing traffic conditions today. Has absolutely nothing to do with our project. However, if we can improve the situation based on what's there today, we're certainly willing to do that. Next slide. And then simultaneously, you're all aware and you've received presentations, we were at one last fall, about the improvement project that the New York State Department of Transportation is undertaking. That will result in some pretty substantial pedestrian improvements and signalization improvements. So all those areas are highlighted in yellow. Those are new sidewalks. They extend partway down Cloverleaf, partway down Pleasant View. I talked about the fact that on the south side of Cloverleaf, we're extending a sidewalk all the way back, including along the frontage of the auto sales facility. You can see there'll be high visibility crosswalks with the pedestrian crossings installed along the site, those white areas. And also, it's my understanding that DOT is looking at improving the existing signals along that segment of Transit Road to try and optimize traffic conditions. So thankfully, kind of at the same time, we will be making improvements and the DOT will simultaneously, or hopefully nearly simultaneously, making improvements. I do want to note, Kim, can you go back to our colored plan? I just missed one point that I want to conclude with. A couple more. It's the colored concept plan. You're getting close. There you go. So I do want to note we're showing one curb cut onto Transit Road. The New York State Department of Transportation has a well-known policy whereby they really want to limit new curb cuts onto state highways. We think there's ample justification given that we have 800 feet of frontage. The reality is the best solution, in my opinion, for taking as much of the traffic off Cloverleaf, which we do know is a concern for some of the nearby property owners as well as the businesses, would be for this eventually to be a signalized intersection. It would provide direct access for the commercial parcels. It's right near our clubhouse. The mail kiosk for all the apartments will be here. It's near the compactor. So DOT generally does not allow traffic signals to be installed prospectively. That's certainly a discussion we would like to have with DOT. I really think it would alleviate some of the concerns that, in particular, residents on Cloverleaf would have. So I just want to make that clear that we would be willing to do that. And then secondly, and I think Councilmember Hammer, you voiced this concern previously, and not surprisingly, DOT came back with the same comment. So as we know, we have that shared access to the McDonald's intersection. What Councilmember Hammer voiced a concern about, both at that meeting on May 5th and EAC meetings, is, well, while that's great, commercial traffic leaving your site is going to back up into the McDonald's parking lot, back up into that vacant commercial building, and cause some issues. We took that comment to heart, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to restrict from that existing intersection, you can only come in. So we won't have commercial vehicles extending out to the south and backing that up. So we really have made a proactive effort to deal with traffic impacts. That's our project in a nutshell. Basically, we would welcome any questions that any of you may have. And again, what we're asking this evening is leave the public hearing open to your next meeting on July 27th, primarily to provide us with the opportunity to receive additional comments from the New York State Department of Transportation. And then if any of you have any questions either tonight or thereafter, please reach out to us. Again, we're going to try to continue to be proactive to address the concerns that have been raised to the best we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. I'm going to open it up to council members first to make any comments or questions.
Thanks for being here and for the presentation. I've got a few questions. I'll
Sure.
take most of them offline because residents or my colleagues might take them up.
Okay.
But there's one that I just wanted to make sure was answered, and that it
Yep.
has to do with the commercial buildings and the drive-throughs. Can we talk a little bit about the stacking lanes and the proposal for drive-through facilities within the development here, and how the traffic's gonna be managed?
Okay, so in terms of, again, the commercial, you can see, again, holding place, we're showing a larger commercial building here, envisioning that could be a grocery store, an Aldi's, a Trader Joe's, nothing of the Wegmans, Tops, Walmart size. And then we're showing two what I would call restaurants with drive-through facilities. The town of Cheektowaga does have some pretty intensive stacking requirements that would be necessary, so we would comply with those. But I guess the most important point that I want to make, Councilmember Noack, is those are literally holding patterns. I think Pat can confirm if and when we have those projects, they'll be very specific. And again, we're agreeing that when we get to that point in the project, we do have to update the traffic impact study and take a look at and see how traffic is going to work when we bring that commercial development online. You're welcome.
Council members? Councilmember Pilarski?
So I drove that Cloverleaf and Pleasant View Drive transit area, and I almost got hit twice over there. So traffic, and that was 3 o'clock on a school day, so the buses weren't quite letting out yet. And it was bad over there. So I am concerned about the traffic over there. And I see you're making efforts by having a right-only lane so they can pass on Cloverleaf there, because that was an issue. One car looking to turn left there
Right.
held everybody up there. But is there enough room to do all that and put the sidewalks in? Because from my understanding, there's 17 feet that is the right-of-way of the town, which would be sidewalk and all that stuff.
Pat, I think you confirm, so basically what we've done is the right-of-way for Cloverleaf is 60 feet. The pavement today is approximately 24 feet, 2 travel lanes. So when we add that additional travel lane, it's obviously another 11 or 12 feet. Then we have to add the sidewalk, and we have to keep all of that in the right-of-way. So we've ordered updated survey information for that particular right-of-way. I know Pat, explain what it will require in terms of the existing utilities out there very briefly.
Yeah, so all the existing utilities, including the water service, is gonna be replaced. There is an open ditch along the south side of Cloverleaf right now that'll be filled in. The sidewalk basically will run right on the property line limit. And then at this intersection here, we will widen it a little bit just for the restriping. But that will not encroach on any private property.
And isn't there a utility pole that needs to be relocated?
We believe there is, yes.
Right.
And there is a fire hydrant there.
Yep.
But we're waiting for the survey information.
Yeah, so there's some expensive improvements we're gonna need to make there, but, that's really the only way to help alleviate that condition. And I do wanna note for the record, we're certainly not taking the position by doing that it solves all problems at that intersection and makes it function great. That's why I still think the key is our center driveway, and if we could get a signal there, I think that really would be then the most attractive way of entering and exiting for both the commercial development as well as the residents on site, with the exception of the townhomes. The townhomes would probably continue to use Cloverleaf. And part of that's because the intersection's skewed, as you know. If it was directly aligned, it would be a little easier.
Councilmember Hammer?
Yeah. Sean, I'm glad to see that you moved that one townhouse back
Yep.
farther from the last resident on Cloverleaf. I just was gonna ask you, where you have the curb and you have all the trees, are those like spruce trees, or?
Pat,
was
do you
there-
want to answer what we're envisioning there for the landscaping?
Did we put the berm in? I know we had talked about
So
putting.
we're- Yeah, go ahead.
The berm is shown right here, along the back of these two buildings here.
Yeah. I'm talking about around that
Yeah,
curb.
you're talking about this area here.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we are proposing a berm there.
Yeah.
But we can certainly open to it. We have the space and the grades to do it. But just for clarification there, we've got. We have 9 spruce trees, and then we have 4 varieties of maple trees.
And again, with respect to that aspect, we recognize that house is still relatively close. I can't remember, I think that's Gary Hillman. I don't know if he's here. Okay. Yeah, Sue is here, his wife. I did provide them with a copy of the plan. Given that they're literally the next door neighbor, I certainly welcome the opportunity to discuss that with them specifically. If they'd like us to see a little bit different in terms of landscaping screening, we certainly would accommodate that.
The sidewalks, you're gonna be putting the sidewalks on the south side of Cloverleaf?
Yes.
And there's nothing on the north side?
There aren't, but DOT is extending the sidewalks up to the pool driveway, right? The
To
pool
pull,
district.
yeah, okay.
As part of their plans. Initially, we didn't have any sidewalk on Cloverleaf. The planning board asked us to provide it again and again. We initially extended it only to the automotive facility, went back to the planning board again, I think in March or February, and then ultimately we agreed, let's just extend it the whole way. You're welcome.
Any council members? Okay, we're gonna open up to the public. Oh, go ahead.
Sure.
One of the other things I'm thinking about in terms of traffic coming down Cloverleaf into transit, I don't know what we can do to naturally incentivize people to drive at a reasonable speed on a residential street. I mean, we can put speed limit signs, but that type of enforcement isn't always the best way to do it. I mean, you've got the curve coming out from the townhouses, that helps. I don't know if a stop signs or even a four-way stop at this intersection that's just, right over there, is something that can be considered or would be reasonable. I'd be concerned about backup. But as we're working through the traffic aspect of this, just to think a little bit more about what we can do to keep folks from building speed coming into Transit Road from the development or jumping across Pleasant View and going down Cloverleaf at 40 or 50 miles an hour, you know?
No, I agree with that, and I've actually tried to go out there several times since this project began. And I've noticed, and I'm not blaming the residents because there's not much there, people tend to travel a little fast today because they can. I'm not blaming anyone, it's just, you know, it's almost like a private road for those individuals. So if there's something we can do for traffic calming, and again, if any of those homeowners have any ideas, we would certainly incorporate that.
And I think the berm and some of the trees there will help.
They will.
If you look at, you know, with trees on roads, on the side of roads, it actually
Right.
slows down if I'm hanging over.
Right, right.
So there's a good start.
Right, I agree.
I definitely echo what Councilman Nowak said there with the speed coming down that street, because if they're trying to beat the light and, you know, get past there, or if they turn down the street accidentally and it's the wrong street, they can make a cut through and realize it's not the case, so now they gotta turn back around and lost time, so.
And I've seen people do that. I did see people do that.
So maybe you could put a dead end, because really it's going into a residential community.
Yeah, is there a dead end sign out there?
There is, right? So
And cars still go down there.
maybe we
Yeah.
need a
We'll
better
let's take a look at
sign,
that.
no outlets
The
too.
no outlet is set back a little bit.
Yeah,
It's
it
not
should
right on
be
the corner
right-
when you
right.
turn.
All right,
It's
let us
set
take a
back.
look at that.
It should be closer to transit, so you know if you're gonna try to take that turn and say, oh, there's no outlet, because some
Okay.
people think you can cut into Genesee through there, and you
Right,
can't.
and then what happens if someone goes down that thinking that's a through street, they get to the end, they're obviously frustrated, then they travel actually faster
You're right,
going back
so it
because they know,
should be right at the corner.
right, now I gotta deal with the signal again, right, okay.
Currently, some folks can see that there's no outlet, but once you see all this development here, you know, it's gonna make it a little bit harder to see obviously that there's no way out.
I think that's something we can probably improve, right, Pat? We'll take a look at it.
Yeah, put that. Oh,
When
no
we come
outlet.
back to you in the month, we'll be able to address that.
Okay, so I'm
You're
gonna
welcome.
open it up now to the public that wishes to speak. Do you have that sheet? Okay, and the speakers will be limited to 3 minutes, so. Are you the first one, or why don't you speak as long as you're up there, and your name is? Okay, Natalie.
Thank you, yes. I live at 30 Cloverleaf. I have 3 young children. I've lived there for 4 years. And again, the biggest concern for myself and the residents on the road is the safety and the traffic. As you said, you've seen it, you were there, you were almost in 2 accidents. I make a left onto Transit every single morning to go to work. I'm a teacher, my husband's a teacher, and I mean, when that peak time to leave is between 7 and 8, it's impossible to make a left. Like, usually I go and then he gets stuck at the light and we laugh about it. It's not funny, but that's the reality of it. Same when you're turning from Transit to to Cloverleaf when I pick up my children from school. The way that the road is, I literally pray because you can't make a strict left. You have to inch your way up and just pray that nobody's coming because of that turning lane. It is so dangerous. It's absolutely awful. And I don't feel as though, I'm grateful that the access was moved down closer to transit. I was very happy to see that. But as far as putting in 3 lanes on Cloverleaf, I'm really having a hard time. I'm up and down that street all day with my kids. We're riding bikes. I don't see how 3 lanes are going to actually fit on the road that he's saying is 60 feet wide. I really don't see it with that car lot there. So again, the accidents, the way the streets are lined up. My other concern, and he mentioned McDonald's, and I'm still not 100% sure that that light is going to be able to be utilized for the project. And then the other access point that is across the street from Hillview Elementary, which is an elementary school, the pickup and the drop-off during the day. I mean, cars are all the way down past Tops to pick up their children. So that is an awful danger zone as it is. And then to add all of that on, I'm just very concerned for the people that are going to be moving there and trying to move down transit. So I really don't think that's going to be utilized because there isn't a light there. So people will then reroute to Cloverleaf, and then that doesn't really solve the problem that we're really all fighting for with safety and traffic. I think that's about all I had to say. And then one other thing, if I have time, just the water pressure. I know our water pressure's awful, so I just worry with adding all of that, and we're kind of at the bottom of the hill. I'm hopeful that that's not going to cause more problems for the residents on the street that we already have. And, am I done? And parking. We do park on the street. I mean, we have a nice driveway, but my kids play basketball in the driveway. Like, I would like to be able to still just park. You know, my husband or I put our car in front of our house, and with that, I just don't know if that's something that we will still be able to do, being a family on the road. I think that's it. I thank you for listening to me. Of course. Yes. Yes. So their bus stop is actually, that is Lorenz Drive, the road that I believe they're using now. So the bus stops in front of, I believe it's 30, so 28 maybe. And it actually stops there, and it backs into Lorenz Drive and goes out Cloverleaf. So that is something, thank you for bringing that up. That's also at the bus stop. When my kids are waiting at the bus stop, that's also a huge concern. Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work. Thank you so much. Yes. Of course.
You talked about traffic backup from Hillview. You said it goes from the school to the top?
So yeah, the drop-off in the morning and the pickup is in the front of the building. The buses use the parking lot on Pleasant View. So when you're a parent and you're waiting to pick up your children, like I am, you're in that line and you're on transit waiting until they start dismissing the kids because of COVID. And again, I pray things get to be somewhat more normal, but it still is back up, and I have seen it past the intersection at Tops. It's a lot of cars. It's a lot. And I actually did take a video of it. I never submitted it just because I was like, how is this going to work? But that's in the morning, and that's also at after school time as well. So, yes, thank you so much.
Okay.
Nope. Sure.
So your kids go to a school across the street there?
They actually go to John A. Sholey, but we don't go to Hillview. But I live obviously across the street. No, they do not go to that school.
But will they end up going, so is that your district across the street?
Lancaster is my school
So they
district.
could end up there?
That's an elementary building. It's a K-3. My children actually go to John A. Sholey. It's on the other side of.
Because what I'm just thinking is depending on K-3 students, if they're considered walkers then at that point,
Yes.
having to cross that road
Yes.
to get to this development because they won't get bused there,
Right.
you know?
There are no walkers to Hillview because there's no sidewalks.
So they bus every kid out of that school?
Every kid,
Okay.
even the kid that lives
Yep.
across Pleasant View.
And we have that in Maryville as well. So, okay, that's good to know. Thank you, because that was just a concern, so it's not a
Right.
concern.
No,
Thank you.
absolutely. That would be helpful. Yes. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next is Sue Hillman.
I'm Sue Hillman. I live at 34 Cloverleaf, which is the last house on Cloverleaf Drive. I'm glad to see that some of the issues that we had were addressed. I appreciate that. You know, we've had a lot of traffic turning around in our driveway, so I'm hopeful that now maybe they'll turn into the apartments and turn around in there when they see they can't get through. Now, there's two issues first of all, the sign that says dead end has been knocked over twice. And you can't really see it when you come around the corner. You can't really see that sign. It's set back enough that people must not see it because I can count every night at least 25 people that are turning around in the street or in my driveway. I think they can get through to the apartments that are on the other side. The snowplow has knocked over the sign at the end of Cloverleaf that said dead end. That's been gone for probably, I've lived there 15 years. That's been gone at least 10 years. I've called the town twice. It's never been put back up. There's also a no parking sign about halfway down Cloverleaf on the, well, if you're coming from Transit, it's on the left-hand side. That is also knocked over and has not been put back up. We also have extreme water issues that I'm really concerned about. The water comes down off that hill and pools in our driveway. My husband has actually cut a ditch across the front of our property to get some of the water to drain away. I am concerned now with them putting this huge complex up there that we're going to get more water. I know he talked about, I don't know anything about construction, he talked about the water management. I don't know what that means. Also, there's supposed to be something, a pool or something to the side of our property. I don't know if that's still.
Sure. Yeah, the retention.
So your house is here.
Right.
That's a stormwater pond, but it's a dry pond, meaning it'll hold water temporarily, and then it'll be conveyed to the system at a control rate.
And my other concern is, which we've addressed with the Erie County Water, our water pressure in our house and also in our neighbors' houses and also the Lavello's complex, our water pressure is horrible. And they keep telling us there's no reason why it should be. Well, now I'm even more concerned because they're putting all those places in that. Is our water pressure going to be even worse? And nobody seems to give us an answer.
Okay.
And the only other thing is, whoever talked about it, they do speed. There's no speed limit sign on Cloverleaf. Obviously, it's a short road.
Okay, the 3 minutes is up. It didn't ring, but
Okay.
yeah. It's
Well,
up.
thank you.
All right, you're welcome. You want to address that, Sean, real quick?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to let Pat Cheek, the project engineer, address the water pressure issue, because we have heard that.
Yeah, so currently existing on Cloverleaf, there's an old 6-inch water main. For this project, we're going to be replacing that with an 8-inch plastic pipe water main. The pressure should improve a little bit. It's not going to improve substantially, but we are aware that the pressure there is very low. So on all the proposed buildings within our project, where we're going to be having booster pumps in every building, just to help with that, I recommend bringing that up to the water authority for you guys. They might be able to help you install those in your homes. It's a serious concern. And as far as the stormwater you were talking about, are you talking about, there's that big kind of berm and ditch back here. Were you talking water comes from there onto your yard?
It comes over the hill.
The hill back here?
No. Where you're building.
Right here?
Other side.
Yeah.
Other side of the project.
This one?
It comes from,
Southwest,
From like up here?
southwest corner. That's not. Way across. Southwest. There you go.
comes all the way over the hill.
All the way over here
Water
to
pours down into the
water that's coming from here to your house now will be contained within this pond here. And then it'll be directed here and then out into the ditch back in here.
Meaning to the extent water's coming from our site onto the neighboring properties, which I don't doubt that it is, that can't continue. We now have to direct that into our stormwater system. So hopefully if that's where it's coming from, it actually improves the water conditions in those front yards.
It
The other
should.
thing I want to know is, given where the Hellmans are, if there's some existing issues just with the grading of their lot, we can certainly talk to them. They're literally right next to our stormwater facility. We can help them out with a pipe, where they want to install a pipe connect. We can look at that, right, Pat? It's pretty easy.
That would be nice. So hopefully, that would be very nice.
So we can discuss that with Gary and stuff, and Sue, and see if something can help out.
And you're putting all new storm drains in anyway, and Cloverleaf too, I would imagine.
Yes, yeah, so that existing ditch along the south,
Yeah.
filled in and piped, and all that will be connected back and drain on the drain road.
So you're putting receivers in and things
Yep.
to take it off of the road.
Yes.
So that should also help you.
Yeah, that'll actually become kind of like what you would picture as a real road rather than.
Yeah, there's probably not enough receivers there now.
Yeah, and that road is, it's pretty flat too, so that doesn't help at all.
So there's no place for it to
No
go.
place for water to go.
Okay, thank you. So the last one is Victor Dunn.
I left with a tie and coat. My name's Victor Dunn, and I'm one of the fellows that has been on that corner for the last 47 years, and I've seen a lot come and a lot go. I own Pool Mart. All these comments that are made with water flow, it's unbelievable, and I take a little issue. I know you're no doubt an engineer, but that's all elevated. It's on a hill. It's called Transit Hill, and it all goes downhill. Now, if they can catch it, that'd be great. But I'm telling you that the water comes down that road, and it's a flood. Lavallo's place, almost underwater, because it hits their driveway and goes down into, because they're down probably maybe 8 feet from our property.
Yeah, they are.
The kids are a problem. Nobody's against this project. What we're against is that it's dangerous, dangerous, dangerous. The intersection is brutal. And please, hear us when we tell you. There were 3 accidents last week. There's accidents out there all the time because people don't know where to go and how to get there. And if you take all that traffic, potentially, there's 160 or 70 at Lavallo's that work there. The front end has got a new Roswell facility there. None of those people come or go off a transit road. It's a suicide mission. They all come down Cloverleaf and go in the driveway, or if they're coming from the north, they'll go in the driveway at Lavallo's on the Genesee end of their property, and when they leave, they come down the driveway and out Cloverleaf. And it's scary. I know a couple of you gentlemen have been over there.
I've been to.
If you haven't been there at 7:30 in the morning until 9 o'clock, and if you haven't been there at 3:30 in the afternoon until 5 o'clock, you're missing something. It's unbelievably dangerous. The roads don't line up. Cloverleaf comes in at a crazy angle, or Pleasant View comes in at a crazy angle, and the opposing traffic, they don't know what to do. They get a green light and they can't go straight because the people from Pleasant View, they're rushing to go south. The people, it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. The only solution we can find that most of the neighborhood has talked about it, is if the road could be widened to accept one road in,
Okay, yeah.
going
Time's
west,
up.
a turning lane out, going north, another lane going straight across Transit Road to let you go down Pleasant View, and another lane to allow you to make a turn south. If you mix any of those, the confusion starts. The people, now somebody wants to turn south, the traffic coming at them won't let them. They kind of pin them into that area as you creep out into the signal. It's unbelievably dangerous, and trust me when I tell you, I'll buy coffee, I'll buy donuts, I'll set up chairs, we can sit there and take pictures and whatever. It's very, very dangerous. I've been there for a long time. I've scraped a lot of people off the pavement out there in the middle of Transit Road. It's tough. Kids, I haven't heard anybody talk, there was one little comment about children. If you try to cross Transit Road, I know the state has plans, and I've seen, I've got copies of the plans that the state's proposed deal. If you take your life in your hands trying to cross Transit Road, because that traffic is firing this way, it's firing that way, and they don't give a rosy red. They could care less. They want to get home. And you see a kid go across the street with a bicycle, and he's walking it because his father said, you walk your bicycle across the street, don't you dare ride it. And I'm saying to myself, please, I hope the kid gets on that bike and pedals his fanny off, because he's not going to make it.
I gave you a couple extra minutes, Mr. Dunn, so.
How am I doing?
Well, you're way past your time, but I gave you a couple extra
Thank you.
minutes, and I'm
Thank you for your
sure
time.
you're going to address that, and the DOT's addressing some of this too, so.
Yeah, that other signal is,
Yeah.
I think, key.
Mhm, and they're going to put a whole new traffic signal in, so,
We'll see.
yeah. Did they say there's arrows coming from? I'll have to. Turning. Okay.
Well, thank you.
You're
Thank you for
welcome.
listening. And we're there if anybody wants coffee.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak on this project, this public hearing tonight? We're going to leave it open.
If there's no more residents, I'd just like to,
Yes.
one last thing. Kind of echo what Victor said there. I mean, I've talked to Dave over at RTI, heard Victor from the businesses. We had 2 residents right here. That's 2/3 of or 2/6 of the residents, so 1/3 of the residents have spoken on this project, and nobody's against it. You know, they're all, it's a great project, it's great for the town of Cheektowaga, it's great, but safety is the number 1 concern there, and not ruining the quality of life for the 6 residents that are there, so. And the developers are doing a great job, and also addressing the concern, putting the sidewalk, widening the road, so I see this project taking off, it's happening, and I'm glad everyone's working together, you know, standing up saying, not my backyard, we're not building it, everybody's, hey, we have real issues here, these are concerns, and we welcome the resolutions. I want to thank both parties, the residents, the developers, and then even the town for addressing these issues, and we'll get it right. So thank you.
Yeah, and the project team wants to appreciate that the town board, the planning board, the AC, your staff spent a lot of time on this, so.
Yes. Well, and thank you.
Supervisor, we do have the one set of comments that was submitted that we need to put into the record.
Okay, are you going to read that?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
Town.
so we did receive a letter from Harris Beach Attorneys. They are representing Lancaster Central School. They had initially sent in comments at the first public hearing that was held on March 9th. They have updated their comments with updates to the plan. One is traffic-related impacts. The updated traffic impact study dated as of June 4th, 2021, prepared by SRF Associates, appears to have updated its initial peak traffic impacts on AM peak hours between 7 and 9 a.m., peak hours between 4 and 6 p.m., and added a midday peak hour category between 11:30 and 1:30 p.m. in response to comments from New York State DOT. The traffic study notes that the traffic volumes are lower than normal due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, but the volumes collected were adjusted consistent with New York State DOT and ITE methodology. While the volumes may have been updated even with the addition of the midday peak hours, the traffic study does not appear to capture the end of the school day traffic generated from Hillview. The impacts of dismissal will be present between the hours of 2:30 and 5 p.m. During such time, buses will be traversing the area. Parents will be picking up students, and staff is departing for the day. In addition, due to the pandemic, no afternoon activities were being conducted during the traffic study period. As part of Phase 1 of the project, the proposed single-point access driveway along Transit Road is to be located directly across from the district parking drop-off loops. While a signal or other traffic control device control traffic and turning will be a major traffic issue for the district students, parents, and staff, especially during dismissal. This issue may become even more exacerbated once the commercial uses are implemented during Phase 2 of the project. As far as visual and audio impacts, the reviewing the overall site plan and the proposed landscape plans for the project, it appears as though there will be little to no setback from the property lot line and the commercial aspects of the project. In addition, other than a small area near the proposed Phase 1 entrance onto Transit Road and along the proposed maintenance shop, dumpsters and garages near the Transit Road Cloverleaf intersection, there does not appear to be much in the way of landscape screening between Transit Road and the project. Without a buffer area and/or some sort of screening, the district is concerned that about the level of the sound that will be emanating from the proposed commercial components of the project, they may adversely impact the instructions at Hillview. Similarly, there will be visual impacts to Hillview without the presence of landscape screening. While the landscape plan does appear to provide for a row of landscape screening throughout the interior of the project between the residential housing and the commercial uses to address these issues for the proposed residents, similar screening does not appear to be proposed along Transit Road. An increased setback and/or landscape buffer would go a long way to mitigating the audio and visual impacts of the project on Hillside and surrounding neighborhoods. They do appreciate that you have made changes so far, but continue to still have issues.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. We're going to keep this hearing open until July 27th. We do have a meeting in between, so is that going to be okay with you? Our next meeting is July 13th.
It's up to you, as we discussed. I said there was another one, but it's up to you how long you think you need.
What would happen if we said July 13th, but then need to push it back 2 weeks later?
Well, then we'd have to call for a new one. Yeah, I would think, right?
No, you could at the July 13th,
Amend it?
I mean, you're initially calling for comments by the 13th, so you should close it at that time, but you can always leave it open again, and make comment on it.
Mhm. All right, so let's leave it open until July 13th, and additional comments can be submitted to Town Clerk Web Mail, all one word, Town Clerk Web Mail @tocny.org. And people can submit their comments to the town clerk, or they can come back to the July 13th meeting, correct? Is that
Correct.
what we're-
Yes,
Set
and as I
aside.
get them, I will forward them on to the board and to you.
Yeah. And then if we feel we need to extend it, then we could probably do that at that meeting. Okay, that sounds good. So we'll move on from our public hearing tonight and work on the consent agenda. Tonight we have a consent agenda as part of this meeting. If any council member wishes to remove an item for discussion, please tell me now, and I will remove it from the consent agenda, and it will be added as a separate resolution item. Anybody? If not, I'd like to, I need a motion to approve the meeting agenda as presented. Councilmember Hamler, seconded by Councilmember Kaminsky. Anybody on the question? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Madam Clerk?
Yes, I have a motion by Supervisor Benchkowski and a second by Councilmember Kaminsky to approve all items on the consent agenda, including the meeting minutes of June 8th and resolution items 2021-285 through 2021-316. I need a roll call vote to approve all those items. Councilmember Adamczak? Yes. Councilmember Hammer? Yes. Councilmember Kaminsky? Yes. Councilmember Nowak?
Yes.
Councilmember Pilarski?
Yes.
Councilmember Rusiniak? Yes. Supervisor Benchkowski?
Yes.
The resolutions on the consent agenda have passed. We have no regular resolution items, but we do have some items under suspension of rules. I need a motion and a second to waive the rules to include the following resolution items: 2021-317 through 2021-322.
Okay. So moved by Councilmember Pilarski, seconded by Councilmember Rushniak. Anybody on the question? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Our first resolution is 2021-317. It's sponsored by Councilmember Rusiniak and seconded by Supervisor Benchkowski. A vacancy exists in the position of sewer maintenance worker in the sewer maintenance department. Michael Chaika, currently employed as park maintenance worker in the facilities department, bid on said vacancy and meets the necessary qualifications for appointment. Michael Chaika of Cheektowaga, New York, being hereby is appointed to the position of sewer maintenance worker in the sewer maintenance department effective June 28th, 2021.
Anybody on the question? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Resolution 2 is 2021-318, sponsored by Supervisor Benchkowski, seconded by Councilmember Adamczak. Coordinator of Employee Relations, Anthony Romano, being hereby is designated the town's drug enforcement representative, effective June 16th, 2021.
On the question? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Resolution 3 is 2021-319, sponsored by Councilmember Pilarski, seconded by Councilmember Rusiniak. Whereas the town of Cheektowaga is the owner of 3349 Broadway and 222 Autumnwood Drive, the Erie County Board of Elections has requested the use of the buildings as election polling places on primary election Tuesday, June 22nd, and general election Tuesday, November 2nd. The supervisor being hereby is authorized and directed to execute the lease agreement with the Board of Elections for the County of Erie for the use of the above referenced town buildings, subject to review and approval of the town attorney.
On the question? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Resolution 4 is 2021-320. It is sponsored by Supervisor Benchkowski and seconded by Councilmember Noah. The Town Board of the Town of Cheektowaga recognizes the importance of planning for the future growth and development of the Town of Cheektowaga and desires to adopt the updated 2021 Comprehensive Plan. A public hearing being held regarding said request on July 13th, 2021 at 8 p.m. At such public hearing, the town board will hear and take statements, testimony, and evidence from all persons interested. Written comments can be submitted to town clerk webmail at tocny.org. They will be added to the record and provided to the board members for review prior to the meeting. A copy of the proposed 2021 comprehensive plan update is on file at the town clerk's office for residents to review.
On the question? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Resolution 5 is 2021-321, sponsored by Supervisor Benchkowski, seconded by Councilmember Adamczak. A vacancy currently exists in the position of Coordinator of Employee Relations. The Coordinator of Employee Relations position requires special skills, aptitude, and expertise as per Code 25-7. Brian Horseman of East Amherst, New York, being hereby is appointed to the position of Coordinator of Employee Relations at the annual salary of $91,000 effective July 2nd, 2021.
Anybody on the question? Actually, I do want to introduce Brian Horsma. He's here tonight. He's our new Coordinator of Employee Relations starting July 2nd. Thank you, Brian. Anybody else? All in favor?
Our last, go ahead.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Our last resolution is 2021-322. It is sponsored by Supervisor Benchkowski, seconded by Councilmember Hammer. Whereas a vacancy exists in the position of General Crew Chief in the Facilities Department, a notice of such vacancy has been posted in accordance with the provisions of the town's collective bargaining agreement and the Town of Cheektowaga Supervisory Unit. John Shasalski, currently employed as Working Crew Chief in the Facilities Department, bid on said vacancy and meets the necessary qualifications for appointment. John Shasalski of Cheektowaga, New York, being hereby is appointed to the position of General Crew Chief in the Facilities Department in accordance with the terms and conditions of the town's collective bargaining agreement with the Town of Cheektowaga Supervisory Unit effective June 28th, 2021.
On the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
That's the end of our resolution. We do have some communications. Departmental communications include minutes from the Veterans Affairs Committee of May 4th, 2021, minutes from the Environmental Advisory Committee, May 26th, 2021, and minutes from the Planning Board from June 10th, 2021. General communication, we had one notice of claim.
Okay, my comments would just be that our next town board meeting isn't until July 13th. The way the month falls this year, the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month, we have a little time span in here. So I did want to mention that. Any council members' comments? Okay. We have, I think that public comment period should probably be going before. Is that how it always was? Okay, because I'm like, wait a minute. So maybe just check one from 2019. Okay, we're going to open it up. We do have to read the statement. Our public comment period. This is an opportunity for residents to comment on matters involving Cheektowaga. The public comment period should last 15 minutes maximum. Each speaker may speak only once, and each speaker shall be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes speaking time. Comments only. Reverend Rick Masano.
First of all, it's great to be back. For over a year, we haven't seen your smiling faces, except on Zoom, which I don't go on. Just to let you know, Duca will hopefully be meeting at the Senior Center on September 2nd. So far, we are not allowed back into schools yet. That might change. I am in touch with Superintendent D'Angelo. He wants us back there, but everything has to go through what the state mandates are. So we plan on starting our meeting in September. Hopefully we'll be there till at least December to have our Christmas party, which again probably be different this year. And after that, in January, I am stepping down as president, and Wally Carriol will take over as president. I will be the community liaison. I want to do other things. In April, we got a letter from the assessment. I have to bring this up because my neighbors are ticked. They are burning. I said, well, call you guys. Who am I? I'm nothing, okay? All I am is the president of the Dick River Community Association, which we don't have meetings. And they're all upset. Some want to leave, some want to move. Do what you want to do. But just to let you know, they are upset. I live up in the northern end of the town. My assessment went up $70,000 from $116,000 to $186,000. The reason being, the homes up there, we're getting people from New York City coming in, and they are having bidding wars up there. It's all well and good, except for us who are stuck there, okay? When I got the letter, they said my tax is gonna go up $700 from where it is now. Most of us on our streets, not all, but most of us on our streets are all on Social Security. We are fixed income. And it's like, what is going on here? I understand that everybody we wanted to go to the 100%, and I was like, you gotta be kidding. So all these people are coming in. Even if, I told my wife, even if we put our house up for $186,000, we wouldn't get it. We could probably get $200 because there's a bidding war, because there's not enough stuff out there, not enough homes out there. But then where will we go? We're too old to get in a mortgage and start all over again. I did let one of our council members know. They told me they would walk me through going through the assessment thing, yeah. But unfortunately, my wife was in the hospital 3 times since January, and that got blown out of the way. So I did write a letter, didn't go anywhere, so we're stuck there. So just to let you know, everybody's saying, well, we got to pay our fair share. Well, when does it end for us who don't get raises in our pensions and don't get very much raises in our Social Security, because most of it goes to Medicare? Where is our fair share, okay? It's got to stop somewhere. I mean, it's not your fault, but it's just like, where does this all end?
And this is not the only town going through this. I hear it's going all over the place. And the thing is that people are starting to get really sick of it. I just want to let you know that we started out as a taxpayers group or a community association, but I wanted to just let you guys know the people out there are fuming, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. Appreciate it. Dave User.
Good to be back. One of the concerns I got, and I've had this for a long time, and I've talked with other council members prior to the pandemic. It went back as far as Rogowski and even Tom Johnson. The bike path. Okay, that's one of the things. I live near it and everything else. I'd get on it once in a blue moon. You know, our bike path goes nowhere. It lets you off in front of a junkyard on Union Road. And then if you go down, it lets you off in Sloan, I think it's Strawn Street. There was an abandoned house there where it lets you off. You ride along a junkyard. The ditch is probably 12 feet deep with garbage and strewn in there and everything else. Take a ride down there someday. And when you go down to Raymond Street, when you get off at Raymond Street, it leads you to a parking lot. You know there's no walk paths on the Raymond Street, except I think it's off of Sandy Lane. So if a parent wants to take their kid to the thing where they can play, the little jumping jack or whatever the heck it is, they gotta walk on grass. So go push your little baby cart over on the grass and see how easy it is. It's not easy. If you make the bike path, okay, accessible, here's it. And some of you that might have been around to know this. We, the town, own all that property from William Street all the way to the creek in West Seneca, okay? We own all that, the bike path. And from William Street to Dingen Street, us, and I believe it's NIMO, it might be NICEAG that owns that. We can make that bike path run from, all the way from here to the Water Authority, actually from Lawson Road, if somebody sits down and thinks about this, all the way down to Dingen Street. That makes the people in the Vern Lane area have accessibility to them swimming pools and that park on Dingen Street. You got a walk bridge over Union Road. You can put a walk bridge. There used to be a bridge on William Street. There used to be a bridge on Dingen Street. Rails to trails. Let's see, rails to trails. What does it tell you? Okay, you take an old railroad line and turn it into a trail. Why can't we do that? And everybody on this end here would have accessibility to that park on Dingen Street, where there's more things going on there than there are on Raymond Street. Okay? And somehow we should be able to figure out how to run that bike path to Lawson Road. Not down Union Road, Como Park Boulevard. You go down Como Park Boulevard. What comes down there every day? Even our town trucks go to the quarry. Really? Is this safe for people walking baby carts and riding on bike path? No. Think about it. Somebody should look into this. And I've talked with you about it, you about it, you about it. Rogowski, Tom Johnson, not Don Johnson, he said too. But this needs to be looked at. I mean, realistically, for the people of this town. There's a lot of pandemic money coming into this town. And you could probably, maybe possibly get grant money. Somebody should look into this, okay? And one other thing. All these mics, forget about that button you're holding down. Make them all live. Make them live, like this one is at all times. And speak into them, please, okay? Last week's meeting was atrocious. The only one I heard was him. And it was very garbled a lot of times on him.
3 minutes is up.
No, you gave the other guy 2 extra.
Well, that was during a public hearing.
Well, that's
so-
okay, this is public too. So,
All right.
it's great to be back. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, like a migraine, right?
Okay, so at this point, I need a motion to adjourn. Okay, Chris Adamsack, seconded by Councilmember. Oh, you know what, wait, we can't adjourn, wait a minute, we have to go into another executive session to discuss PBA collective negotiations. I know, I was told this at the last minute. 10 minutes. So, with no action to follow. So right after that, we're gonna adjourn the meeting. So, Councilmember Adams, and, all right. And, Councilmember, Noah. To go at, what time is it? 8:20. So you got that, Kim, movers.